The twin suns hung low in the sky, casting long red shadows over the dusty market of the mining world called Grath. The air was thick with the smell of smoke, oil, and sweat. Traders shouted from their stalls, selling rusted tools, broken machinery, and sacks of ore. Loud alien voices mixed with the clank of chains and the hiss of steam from cargo haulers. Captain Rylan stepped off his ship, the iron wind, his boots crunching over the dry, cracked ground. He was here for a simple job: pick up a shipment of refined ore, pay the slaver miners, and leave before trouble found him. Trouble had a habit of finding him anyway. He moved through the crowded street, his coat brushing against strange alien fabrics, his eyes scanning for the ore merchant. But then he stopped, at the far end of the market, half hidden in shadow, was a small cage. Inside sat a girl, no older than 16, maybe younger. Her skin was pale lavender under the dirt, and her dark hair was tangled and full of dust. A thin chain was locked around her neck, the other end bolted to the cage floor. Her knees were pulled tight to her chest, bare feet resting on the cold metal. She didn't look up when people passed. Most didn't even notice her. The alien slaver, sitting beside the cage, noticed Rylan's eyes. He was tall and thin, with green-scaled skin and a permanent sneer. "Not interested in that one, human," he said. "She's damaged goods, won't talk, won't work, eats too much, worthless." Rylan didn't answer right away. He stepped closer to the cage, crouching down so he could see her face. She finally glanced at him just for a second. Her eyes were a deep silver, but they had no light in them. "What's your name?" Rylan asked. Her voice was so soft he almost didn't hear it. "I'm dirty," she whispered. "I'm worthless." Something in the way she said it made his jaw tighten. The slaver laughed. "See, she knows what she is. Good for nothing but breaking rocks in the mines. You buy enough, or I'll throw her in for free." Rylan's eyes stayed on the girl. Her hands were thin, bruised at the wrists. Her shoulders were tense, like she expected a blow at any moment. He stood slowly, towering over the slaver. "How much?" The alien blinked. "For her, I told you free." "If I said how much?" Rylan repeated. The slaver smirked, naming a price that would make most people walk away. Rylan didn't argue. He reached into his coat, pulled out a small pouch of credits, and tossed it onto the table. The metal coins clinked loudly. The slaver's smirk faded. "You serious?" Rylan crouched again, unlocking the cage himself. The girl didn't move at first. She looked at him like she couldn't understand what was happening. "It's all right," Rylan said quietly. He reached out, and for a moment she flinched, expecting pain. But instead, he lifted her gently, as if she were made of glass. She weighed almost nothing in his arms. Gasps rose from nearby traders. A human captain carrying an alien girl like she was something precious. That wasn't normal. On Grath, slaves were dragged, not carried. The slaver called after him, but Rylan ignored it. He walked back toward his ship, the girl in his arms, her head resting against his shoulder. She didn't speak, but he could feel the faint tremble in her body. The iron wind's ramp lowered with a hiss, and Rylan stepped aboard. His first mate, a broad-shouldered man named Kor, met him at the entrance. His eyes went to the girl. "What's this?" "She's coming with us," Rylan said. Kor frowned. "Captain, we're not a rescue ship, and she's not human." Rylan gave him a hard look. "She's crew now. Get her food and clean clothes." Kor hesitated, then nodded. "Aye." Captain Rylan carried her to a small cabin near the crew quarters. He set her down on the bed, a simple thing with a thin blanket and pillow. She sat there, her hands clenched in her lap, eyes down. He knelt so they were eye level. "No one will hurt you here," he said. She didn't answer. Rylan stood, moving toward the door. "Rest. We'll be in space soon." As he left, he glanced back one last time. She was still sitting there, but her silver eyes followed him now. The iron wind lifted off from Grath, engines roaring as it broke through the dusty sky into the black void beyond. In the cargo hold, crates of ore were stacked high, but in the captain's mind, the cargo wasn't the important thing anymore. Something about that girl, the way she had said, "I'm worthless," wouldn't leave him. He didn't know her story yet. He didn't know why she'd been left in a cage like forgotten trash. But he knew one thing: no one was worthless. Not on his ship. And somewhere deep in the dark between the stars, someone was about to learn that taking her had been a mistake. The iron wind sailed through the black ocean of space, its engines humming softly. Stars drifted past the viewports, silent witnesses to countless stories. For Captain Rylan, this one was just beginning. He sat in the cockpit, watching the navigation charts update. The mining world of Grath was far behind them, but his mind kept returning to the girl. Her name, he still didn't know it. Down in the crew quarters, Kor had given her a meal, bread, fruit, and a cup of warm broth. She hadn't eaten much, only sipping the broth while keeping her eyes on the floor. The fresh clothes Rylan had ordered were folded neatly beside her bed, untouched. Rylan walked down the narrow hall and stopped at her cabin door. He knocked lightly. "May I come in?" No answer. He slid the door open. She sat on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, her hair now brushed free of tangles but still falling over her face. The untouched clothes were still there. Rylan stepped inside, keeping his voice gentle. "You need to eat. And you should change into those clothes before we hit cold space." She looked up at him then, silver eyes that seemed older than her young face. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Because I don't leave people in cages," he said simply. She blinked at him, as if trying to decide whether to believe that. Then she whispered, "Lira." Rylan tilted his head. "Lira, my name," she said. "It's Lira," he gave a small nod. "Lira, that's better than worthless, isn't it?" Her eyes dropped again. She didn't answer. Rylan left her to change, but as he stepped into the hallway, Kor appeared. "Captain, you should see this," he said, his voice low. They walked together to the cockpit. On the radar display, a small blip appeared far behind. Them, a ship running without transponder signals. It had been there since they left Grath, keeping its distance but never losing them. "Stealth ship," Kor said. "Fast one. Whoever it is, they're following us." Rylan's jaw tightened. "They after our ore," Kor glanced at him. "Captain, you bought a girl in chains from a slaver. You really think this is about, or..." Rylan said nothing, but his eyes went to the hallway leading to Lira's cabin. Hours passed. The ship behind them stayed at the same distance, shadowing every turn. Rylan decided not to alarm Lira, but he kept his sidearm close. That evening, he found her sitting by the observation window in the mess hall. She was staring out at the stars, her knees pulled up to her chest again. He sat down across from her. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said, nodding toward the endless black and silver outside. "I've never seen it before," she murmured. "From the mines, you only see rock walls. No sky, no stars. He studied her face. How long were you there? She hesitated. Since I was very small. I don't remember before it. Rylan leaned forward. Then why are they following us? Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't answer. Lira, he said softly, you don't have to trust me yet. But if I don't know the truth, I can't protect you. For a long time, she was silent. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, I heard them talking. The ones who kept me. They said, if anyone ever found me, it would mean war. Eyes narrowed. War, she nodded. They said I'm something important, but I don't understand why. Before Rylan could ask more, the Iron Wind's alarm blared. Kor's voice came over the intercom. Captain, they're closing in. Looks like they're done waiting. Rylan was on his feet instantly. Stay here, he told Lira. In the cockpit, the stealth ship was now visible through the viewport, sleek, black, and armed. It wasn't just following anymore. It was preparing to intercept. They'll be in range in 2 minutes, Kor said. Power to engines, Rylan ordered. We're not letting them board. The Iron Wind surged forward, the stars blurring outside. But the stealth ship matched their speed easily. They're faster, Kor muttered. A voice crackled through the comms, cold and sharp. Captain of the Iron Wind, surrender the girl, and we will let you live. Refuse, and we will take her. From your cold hands. Rylan didn't answer. He cut the comm and turned to Kor. Full power, let's see how close they're willing to get. The stealth ship responded by firing a warning shot, a bright streak of plasma that passed just ahead of the Iron Wind's bow. Rylan's hands tightened on the controls. He had been in enough fights to know when someone wasn't bluffing. Back in the mess hall, Lira sat frozen as the ship shook slightly from the plasma shot. Her mind raced. She had never been on a starship before, but she knew one thing. If they caught her, she would never be free again. She stood and ran toward the cockpit when she arrived. Rylan was barking orders and Kor was adjusting power settings. Captain, she said, her voice breaking. Rylan glanced back. Lira, I told you, they won't stop. She said, I heard their voices. I know who they are. They're hunters, from my people. They were sent to take me back, no matter the cost. Rylan's eyes narrowed. Why, who are you really? She swallowed hard. I don't know everything, but my family wasn't poor. They were rulers, I think. Kor's eyes widened. Royalty, before Rylan could ask more. Another plasma shot rocked the ship. Rylan looked at Lira, then at the pursuing vessel. Then we can't outrun them. We'll have to lose them another way. He swung the ship hard toward a nearby asteroid field. Massive chunks of rock drifted silently, lit only by the faint glow of distant stars. The stealth ship followed, weaving through the floating giants. Lira gripped the back of Rylan's chair. They won't stop until they have me. Rylan glanced up at her. Then we make sure they never do. And with that, he dove the Iron Wind deeper into the asteroid field. The stealth ship still on their tail, and the tension rising with every passing second. The asteroid field was a maze of floating stone giants, each spinning slowly in the cold black. Some were as small as boulders, others were the size of cities. The Iron Wind weaved between them, its hull creaking as it brushed close to jagged edges. Rylan's hands moved quickly over the controls, eyes locked on the radar. The stealth ship was still there, threading the same deadly path behind them. there, matching every move, Kor said, his voice tight. One wrong turn and we're dust. Rylan didn't answer. He was focused on keeping them alive. In the co-pilot's seat, Lira sat tense, her silver eyes fixed on the glowing dots on the radar. Her hands gripped the armrest so hard her knuckles were pale. Finally, Rylan spoke. They're not trying to kill us. If they were, they'd have fired in here already. That means they want you alive. Lira glanced at him, her lips pressed, in a thin line. Yes. Rylan turned to her, his voice steady. No more half-truths. Who are you, Lira? She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. I told you, I think my family were rulers, but there's more. Kor snorted. Figures. Lyra's voice was low, but clear. I wasn't just some royal's daughter. I was next in line. My people, the Varen, have ruled our homeworld for over 1,000 years. We're taught about leadership, history, and the vault. Rylan's eyes narrowed. The vault, she nodded. An ancient place, hidden deep beneath the ice mountains on my homeworld. It's said to hold technology from before the First War, weapons so powerful they could destroy fleets. Kor leaned forward. And you know where it is? Lira looked at him sharply. I don't just know. I'm the only one who can open it. The hum of the engines seemed louder in the silence that followed. Rylan stared at her. So you're telling me? Those ships aren't just slavers. They're coming for a key that could start a war. Yes, she said softly. When I was a child, there was an uprising. My father was killed. I was taken before I could be crowned. They erased my name from our records, made me vanish so no one would rally to me. And you ended up in a cage on Grath, Rylan said bitterly. She nodded. The ones chasing us, they work for the new rulers. They want me dead before anyone knows I'm alive. Kor shook his head. Dead. Then why not just blast us out of the sky? Because, Lira said, her voice dropping, if they kill me before they find the vault, they lose it forever. The realization hit Rylan like a punch. And if they do find it with you alive, they'll use it to crush anyone who resists them, Lira finished, including humans. The iron wind shook as a plasma bolt grazed the rear shields. Kor cursed. They're getting tired of waiting. Rylan's mind raced. If we keep running, they'll just follow us until we run out of fuel. We need to make them think we're gone. Lira frowned. How? Rylan pointed at the radar. Asteroids this big have caves, tunnels, hollow spaces. We find one, slip inside, kill the engines, and let them pass. Kor grinned. Risky. I like it. Minutes later, Rylan spotted what he was looking for. A massive asteroid with a shadowed scar along its side. He angled the iron wind toward it, pushing the engines hard. The stealth ship followed, closing in. Hold on, Rylan muttered. He twisted the ship sideways, squeezing it through the narrow gap into the asteroid scar. The hull scraped rock, the sound like nails on metal. Inside, the space opened into a wide cavern. Ryland killed the engines. The ship drifted to a stop. In total darkness, they sat in silence, listening to the distant hum of the asteroid's slow spin. The radar showed the stealth ship approaching, then passing right by. They bought it, Kor whispered. Rylan didn't relax. Wait. The blip on the radar kept moving, farther and farther away, until it was gone. Only then did Rylan let out a breath. All right, we've got time, but not much. Lyra's voice was softer now. You're risking your life for me. You don't even know me. Rylan looked at her. I know enough. You were in a cage. Now you're not. That's enough for me. Her silver eyes studied him for a long moment. Most people would have sold me back to them for a reward. Not most people. Something in his tone made her shoulders ease, just slightly. In the quiet of the asteroid, they made a plan. Lira would guide them toward a neutral world where they could hide and gather information about who else knew she was alive. From there, they would decide if going to the vault was even possible. But deep down, Rylan knew there was no avoiding it. If what she said was true, the galaxy's balance of power was at stake. As they prepared to leave, Lira stood by the viewport, looking out at the cold, silent rock around them. When I was in the mines, I used to dream of someone coming for me. I thought it was foolish. And now, Rylan asked. She glanced back at him. Now, I don't know if you came to save me, or if I'm about to ruin your life. Rylan gave a faint smile. Why not both? Kor's voice cut in. Captain, engines are ready. Let's move before our friends realize they lost us. The Iron Wind's engines came back to life, a low growl in the dark. They slipped out of the asteroid's shadow and back into open space. But far behind them, the stealth ship slowed and turned. Its captain, a tall Veran with cold, pale eyes, watched the empty asteroid field. The human is clever, he said, but clever doesn't save you forever. He gave the order to follow the faint ion trail the Iron Wind had left. Behind, the hunt wasn't over. The Iron Wind streaked across open space, its engines leaving a faint silver trail. The asteroid field was far behind them now, but Rylan's mind was still running the situation over and over. The stealth ship would be back, and when it returned, it wouldn't be alone. Kor was at the controls, guiding the ship toward their next destination, a neutral trading world called Tereth's Gate. It was a place where deals were made in whispers and credits were the only law that mattered. Lira sat strapped into the co-pilot's seat, watching the stars ahead. She hadn't spoken much since they left the asteroid. Rylan suspected she was thinking about the vault, and about the people chasing her. Once we're on Tereth's Gate, Rylan said, we find a safe place to hide you. Then we look for someone who can give us intel on the Varan ships. Kor glanced back. And if they already know where we're going? Rylan didn't answer. He was about to when the ship's proximity alarm blared. 3 new blips appeared on the radar, not behind them, but ahead. They're not Varan, Kor said, scanning the signatures. Human ships. Heavy ones. Rylan's eyes narrowed. Warlord designs. Lira turned to him. Warlord. Humans who decided the galaxy was easier to control if you stopped pretending you were civilized. Rylan said flatly, this. One's name is Torvik. He's as dangerous as any alien empire. The cum crackled, and a deep voice filled the cockpit. Captain Rylan, I hear you have something of value, something worth more than the ship you fly. Hand her over, and I'll let you and your crew live. Rylan cut the cum. Not happening. Kor swore under his breath. 3 ships against 1. Shields won't hold. Rylan's jaw tightened. Then we don't give them a chance to. Aim. The Iron Wind banked hard, diving toward a small moon ahead. Its surface was jagged, filled with deep canyons and sharp ridges. The Warlord's ships followed, firing bursts of plasma that lit up the darkness. Lira gripped her harness. You can't fight 3 ships at once. Rylan didn't look back. I don't need to fight them. I need to make the ground fight. For me, he dove the ship into the canyons, weaving between towering walls of rock. The warlord's larger ships followed, but had to slow to avoid slamming into the cliffs. Plasma fire chased them through the twists and turns, blasting chunks of stone into the air. Kor's hands flew over the controls. Shields at 60%. "Keep us moving," Rylan said. A blast rocked the iron wind, and warning lights flashed red. The rear shields were gone. "They'll have us in another minute," Kor shouted. Rylan's eyes scanned the terrain ahead. Then he saw it, a narrow tunnel in the canyon wall, barely wide enough for the iron wind. He aimed for it. "Hold on." The ship shot into the tunnel, scraping its wings against stone. Sparks flew inside the cockpit. The warlord's ships tried to follow, but the tunnel was too narrow. One pulled away, another clipped the wall and spun out, slamming into the canyon floor in a ball of fire. Cheers erupted from the crew. One down. They burst out of the tunnel into a wide basin, but the last warlord ship was waiting, its weapons locked on them. A voice came over the come again, laughing. "Clever, but not clever enough." Before Rylan could respond, Lira unstrapped herself and stepped toward the controls. "What are you doing?" he demanded. She placed a hand on the com panel. "He thinks I'm just cargo. Let me talk to him." Rylan hesitated, then nodded. Her voice filled the channel, calm and steady. "Torvik, do you know who I am?" There was a pause. "Some runaway alien girl. That's all I need to know." "You know the Veren Vault?" she asked. Silence. "I can open it," she continued. "If you kill me, you'll never find it. But if you help us get there, you could own the galaxy." Rylan shot her a sharp look, but she kept her eyes on the come. Torvik's voice returned, slower now. "And what stops me from taking you right now?" "Because," she said, her tone like steel, "the key to the vault is not my life. It's my trust, and you don't have it." A long silence followed. Then Torvik laughed, not kindly. "You're bold. I like bold. Fine, I won't kill you yet, but the vault will be mine." His ship pulled away, disappearing into the darkness. Kor exhaled. "That's not good. He's going to follow us now." Rylan's jaw clenched. "Then we'd better get to the vault before he does." Lira turned to Rylan. "You don't trust him?" "I don't trust anyone who wants power that badly," Rylan said. "But if he's chasing us, maybe the Veren won't see him coming. We use him as a distraction." Kor grinned. "Dangerous plan. I like it." They broke atmosphere and headed back into open space. Behind them, the jagged moon faded into the distance. Rylan adjusted the ship's course toward the uncharted systems where Lira said the vault was hidden. Lira stood by the viewport, watching the stars. "You could have handed me over. Twice. You didn't." Rylan glanced at her. "Because you're not worthless. And because, if you're telling the truth, the galaxy's in trouble." For the first time, a small smile touched her lips. But deep in the dark void behind them, both Torvik and the Veren hunters were closing in. The real fight was still to come. The iron wind cut through the black like a silver blade, heading toward a small ice-covered planet hidden deep in uncharted space. The surface shimmered faintly, under a pale blue sun. "That's it," Lira said quietly, her silver eyes fixed on the viewport. "The vault is beneath the northern ice mountains." Rylan glanced at her. "How sure are you?" "I've known the way since I was a child," she said. "They taught me the path in secret. Only the air can open it." Kor muttered, "Let's hope the others haven't found it yet." But they all knew That was wishful thinking. Two separate hunters, Torvik's warlord fleet and the Veran pursuers, were both tracking them. The iron wind descended through swirling snow, landing between jagged ice cliffs. The air outside was sharp and thin, their breath turning to clouds instantly. The wind howled like a living thing. Lira stepped down the ramp first, her boots crunching into the frozen ground. She wore a thick coat from the ship's stores, but still shivered. Rylan and Kor followed, weapons ready. They carried a small beacon to guide them back, knowing visibility could vanish in seconds in the blizzard. They moved across the icy plain until they reached a wall of blue-white ice. Lira stepped forward, brushing snow away from a set of faint carvings. The symbols glowed softly at her touch. "This is it," she said. She pressed her hand against the center of the pattern. A deep vibration rolled through the ground. The ice split apart, revealing a dark tunnel that led down into the mountain inside. The air was warmer, lit by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. The tunnel wound downward until it opened into a massive chamber. At the far end stood the vault door, a towering slab of silver metal carved with swirling designs. "It's beautiful," Kor said. "It's dangerous," Lira replied. She stepped forward, her voice steady but low. "Once I open it, there's no going back. Whatever's inside, it will change everything." Rylan's eyes scanned the shadows. "Then let's make sure we survive long enough to see it." They didn't have long. The sound of engines rumbled above, faint at first, then louder. Rylan's come crackled with static before a sharp voice cut through. "Captain," Torvik's deep tone boomed. "I told you I'd find you." Another voice followed, cold and precise, the Veran commander. "Step away from the air, human, and you may yet leave here alive." Rylan swore under his breath. Both at once, Kor tightened his grip on his rifle. "This is going to be bad." The enemy forces entered from opposite sides of the chamber's upper ledge, weapons raised. Torvik's soldiers wore heavy armor and carried plasma cannons. The Veran were leaner, faster, armed with long, curved blades that shimmered with energy. For a moment, neither side attacked. They only stared at each other, and at Lira. Tor Vek spoke first. "You open the vault for me, girl, and I'll make you ruler of half the galaxy." The Veran commander's voice cut in. "Or you come with me, and your people will be safe. Refuse, and you die here." Lira looked from one to the other, then stepped back toward Rylan. "I choose neither." The silence lasted one heartbeat. Then chaos exploded. Torvik's soldiers opened fire, blasts of plasma cutting through the air. The Veran darted forward, blades flashing. The two forces clashed violently, and the chamber filled with the screams of battle. Rylan pulled Lira behind. "A crystal pillar. Get to the door," he shouted. "Open it." She ran, her boots pounding against the stone floor. Energy blasts scorched the ground around her as she reached the vault. She placed both hands on the silver metal, speaking in her people's ancient tongue. The designs on the door lit up, lines of light racing outward like fire. Torvik saw it and roared. "She's opening it. Stop her." Two of his soldiers broke through the fight, charging toward her, but Rylan intercepted them, firing his rifle in quick bursts. One fell, the other stumbled, clutching a smoking wound. Kor covered. Rylan sighed, picking off any soldier who got too close. "We can't hold them all," he shouted. The vault groaned. The massive slab began to slide open, revealing a cold blue light from within. Lira's voice rose above the noise. "It's almost open. The fighting grew more desperate. The Varen commander cut through Torvik's men with ruthless precision, but was bleeding from a deep cut across his side. Torvik himself waded into the battle, swinging a massive plasma axe that carved glowing arcs through the air. He spotted Lira and charged. Rylan moved to intercept, blocking Torvik's path. There, weapons clashed axe against rifle stock, each strike shaking Rylan's arms. "You think she's yours to protect?" Torvik snarled. "She belongs to whoever is strong enough to keep her." "She's not a thing," Rylan growled. With a twist, he knocked the axe aside and drove his elbow into Torvik's chest. The warlord stumbled back, his armor dented. The vault door finally opened wide enough for Lira to step through. She froze at what she saw. It wasn't just weapons. The chamber inside was filled with data cores, ancient star maps, and crystalline devices glowing with soft light. In the center, on a raised platform, was a single sphere of pulsing energy, the heart of the vault's power. She realized the truth. This technology could defend entire worlds, or destroy them. Rylan reached her side. "What now?" She looked at him, her silver eyes steady. "We make sure no one uses it for war." She placed her hands on the sphere. It flared brightly, sending a wave of light through the entire chamber. The fighting stopped as every soldier, human and Varen, shielded their eyes. When the light faded, the weapons in their hands were dead, drained of power. Lira stepped forward. "Leave now, or none of you leave alive." The Varen commander hesitated, then signaled his forces to retreat. Torvik glared at her for a long moment before turning away, his soldiers following. Only Rylan Core and Lira remained in the quiet chamber. Rylan let out a long breath. "You did it." She shook her head. "We did it, and now the vault will be sealed again, but this time, only I know how to open it." Core grinned. "Guess that makes you pretty priceless." Lira smiled faintly. For the first time, the word didn't make her uncomfortable. They left the chamber together. The vault ceiling shut behind them with a deep, final thud. Outside, the storm had cleared. The pale blue sun hung low over the ice mountains. As they boarded the iron wind, Rylan glanced at her. "So, where to next?" She looked out at the endless stars. "Anywhere, everywhere. As long as I'm not in a cage." Rylan nodded. "Deal." The ship rose into the sky, leaving the icy world behind. Somewhere out there, the galaxy would keep chasing power. But now, it would also remember the day a girl who called herself worthless proved she was anything but.